It's this weekend. All right, but right now, we got our first guest, Anthony Slamar, Risk Control Specialist at Northland Trucking Risk Control. Anthony, great to see you.
Hey, thanks for having me. Appreciate being here.
Crazy topic I had to start this. I wish I didn't have to start a show with topics like that. Why? Like, freight theft is crazy. I know it's not our main topic, but freight theft's crazy right now.
Yeah, actually, that was one of the things I was going to talk about is cargo loss today.
Let's start at cargo loss, then we'll go to driver training because like that. Let's tie it into the beginning.
Yeah, absolutely. So, cargo loss is a big thing out there. One thing that we, emerging trend or growing trend, I should say, it's something that's really common, unfortunately, but it's something that we deal with a lot. And, I'll say this right off the bat. Really successful trucking companies are going to have policies and procedures in place to address all different types of loss. All right. Successful trucking companies know that having a good, strong fleet safety program is crucial to the overall success of that organization. Right. So part of that fleet safety program is going to have a lot of things such as, safe backing procedures, getting through an intersection safely, ELDs, hours of service, pre-trip inspections, preventative maintenance, speeding, seatbelts, cell phones. The list goes on. Right. It's a heavily regulated industry, so we want to have the good policies and procedures in place for that. And cargo loss is no different, right? Cargo loss is a big subject, and and cargo theft is obviously a part of cargo loss. Other types of cargo loss are also going to include, temperature variances in a reefer unit. Could be a sheet metal, a rust on sheet metal that's on a flatbed tractor or flatbed trailer. So these are all things that we want to address in that overall fleet safety program. We want to have policies and procedures in place to address this, right? We don't want this type of loss from occurring. So I'll give you an example of something I recently dealt with. There was a driver who was going from point A to point B across the country, and along that route, his place of residence was located. The driver stopped, went home, but before he went home, he left the truck and trailer in an abandoned parking lot, came back a couple days later, and it's gone, right? So just like accident management, which we're going to talk about today extensively, we want to have some policies and procedures in place that would address cargo loss. Maybe not making that tractor trailer such an easy target for theft, right? Talking about temperature control and reefer units, that type of thing. It's really important.
Yeah, of course. Everyone out there, talk to you. Make sure you have cargo insurance. Check your cargo insurance. Vet your brokers. Vet your carriers. I'm just warning you, this has been a big issue. But let's talk about something else too.
Yeah.
Driver training and how that factors into accidents.
Yeah. So, accident management, or sometimes as it's called, post-accident management, it's a crucial component for a fleet safety program, right? This is something that we want to see in a fleet safety program. Ultimately, what this is it's a tool that we can use to make that company get better, right? We want to make the driver, that's not just involved in the accident, but maybe even fleet-wide, better drivers out there on the road. The big part of accident management is coaching and retraining, which we'll talk about. But ultimately, it's a formal policy, it's a formal procedure that we would include in that overall fleet safety program.
Yeah, so you mentioned something interesting there. How do we find a positive within a mishap, in an accident?
Yeah, so when we look at the overall fleet safety program, what this is it's a tool that's going to help us get better, right? It's something that ultimately is it's actually a really good tool to make the driver and the fleet better at what they do, right? We are gentle giants out there on the road, setting the example for other motorists, and having a good accident management program is something that helps us get better. Big part of it, like we talked about, coaching and retraining are important elements of that. But to kind of begin, to start from the very beginning, first and foremost, we want to make sure that our driver is taken care of, right? The driver is the most important safety element in that vehicle. So what if there's an injury after a crash? How is that driver going to get medical attention? These are things that we want to address properly in that accident management program. Also, mental health issues as well, something we also want to look at. We want to make sure that that driver is okay. All right, this is not something that we want to prolong. We want to get on this right away.
How do you make it not
next
feel?
Thing we want to
Well, I was just, how do you make it not feel punitive? Because like you get into, we're saying accident here, the driver's not at fault. How do you make it so it doesn't feel
Mhm.
like they're being attacked when you're trying to approach this?
Yeah, really good question. Nobody wants to be the subject of this, right? You feel like you're under scrutiny, and there's a few ways to deal with this. Number one, you really want to treat that driver with respect, kindness, compassion, right? Um, we want to make sure at the end of the day we are using this accident management program to make that person a better driver, right? A better individual on that road. Another thing that we want to do, and a lot of companies do this, and it's a really good technique, is sometimes they will not just focus all of that coaching and retraining effort and energy on that lone driver, but they will make this a fleet-wide issue, and that's really important. That's really helpful. Because now we're taking this bad situation, we're going to make it positive. We're going to teach our drivers, okay, this is what happened on the road. This is how we can avoid it, and we're not just going to necessarily single out this driver. Of course, we're probably going to have some one-on-one time with him, right, or her, but we also want to take that and train the company, okay, on what they did. Really, really important. A lot of the times too is, let's say the driver does something good where they avoid the accident, or that they do something that greatly reduces the actual damages. Right. This is something a lot of companies will do. They will take that information of the accident and they will distribute that fleet wide. So now that driver who took that positive action feels good about themselves, that they did something to really make prevent a bad situation from becoming worse.
Yeah, and look, when you think about an accident in this industry, this is one of the few ones where you have a giant logo on the side of the trailer, advertising what just happened over there. Obviously, the drivers, this is a two-sided thing. The drivers and the company both play a big part in this. But what other issues have you seen come up through driver training? And actually, you mentioned cargo loss. Does driver training factor that into that too? Is there a way to keep these drivers from finding themselves doing some of these duplicitous turnovers, like what happened in that TA parking lot?
Yeah, so obviously the driver training is a big part of accident management and cargo loss, right? It's something that's really important to address. And one thing too, and kind of going back to what we were talking about earlier, is when we look at this accident management program, that is going to hopefully prevent that loss, that future loss, or that future crash from occurring. In addition to cargo loss issues, or cargo theft. Ultimately, what we're kind of looking at is, like, we were talking about, gathering the information, right, and also then performing our own investigation. Okay, we want to see if there's any holes in our overall fleet safety program that we can adjust. But another thing too is, when we look at that accident, when we talk about doing our own accident investigation, we have to realize sometimes the government might not get back to us with what happened, right? As someone who's done accident investigations, fatality investigations from the government, I can tell you sometimes you might not get the information right away, or the government's findings. This is why you want to start this process sooner than later, and start trying to figure it out what happened. And then from there, you kind of base your coaching and retraining. Again, talking about cargo loss, cargo theft.
Yeah.
Maybe we don't want to have, put a tractor trailer in a spot that's, like, for example, an abandoned mall that's known for theft issues, that type of thing. Another thing too is, a really big crucial element of this accident management is looking at trends, right? In insurance, we love looking at trends. We look at statistics because it kind of helps us figure out what could happen in the future. And so, for example, if I'm working with a company and they have 7 losses on their record, and 4 of which are rear end collisions, or let's talk about cargo loss, let's say 4 of which are cargo loss claims, we're going to have more of a conversation to figure out how we can proactively prevent the 8th loss, or the next loss, from becoming a cargo loss issue, right? So trends are really big and very, very important to look at.
No doubt. And some of those trends are not looking great. Some of the cargo theft ones. We
Yeah,
got to have good fleet
right.
safety programs. We have to have good training. Where do people go to get your advice on this and protect their drivers and their freight?
Yeah, so we have a lot of resources on our website at Northland Insurance. We specialize in the trucking industry. That's what we do. We love helping our customers deal with DOT issues, fleet safety, improving their overall posture on the road. On our website, we have a lot of resources that address cargo loss, cargo theft, preventative maintenance, tons of driver training, really good stuff. It's northlandins.com. That's northlandins.com. Another thing we really provide our customers is we have a group of safety professionals strategically located throughout the United States. Every single person on the Northland Risk Control team has either had a CDL, been a safety director at a transportation company, or both, in addition to some law enforcement officers who have done hundreds, if not thousands, of DOT inspections, as well as some veterans. So we really love meeting with our customers, helping them with their fleet safety, and improving their overall safety posture out there on the road.
Very cool, Anthony. Thank you for joining us on the show, and you have a great weekend.
Hey, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Take care. All right, everybody.